Welcome back. An unprecedented lawsuit could shake things up in Washington. House Speaker John Boehner threatening to sue President Obama over his use of executive orders. Douglas Kamek is a constitutional law professor at Pepperdine University and a former ambassador to the Republic of Malta. Douglas, thanks for being here.
Good to be with you this morning.
Let me ask you about some of the actions in this lawsuit. John Boehner did not specify which actions he's referring to, but of course we could go through a list of the times that the president has gone around Congress, whether it be the Affordable Care Act, the EPA regulations, releasing the 5 detainees from Gitmo. What's your sense of this lawsuit?
Well, the sense of the lawsuit is that it's not a good sign. Obviously, whenever you've got a domestic government suing itself rather than working together, you've got complete dysfunction. For the most part, the courts like to stay clear of these lawsuits because they want the political branches, the Congress and the President, to work things out themselves, and they will make every effort as the litigation goes forward to try and get the parties to resolve the matter by doing their own respective responsibilities. But here's the thing. A long time ago, the Supreme Court said there's 3 postures that tend to exist. The President can act together with the Congress. That's the strongest posture. The President can act in an area where the Congress has been ambiguous. That's a place where lawsuits happen. And the President can act in the context of where he's acting directly against the Congress's specifications. Mr. Boehner thinks the President is in that 3rd category, and that's very serious. If he is in that 3rd category, that's a constitutional violation, and the court won't blinker that. They'll take a look at it.
So what do you think the implications of this are? I mean, John Boehner has said this is not about impeachment, but what's the end game, and what are the implications if, in fact, the Supreme Court does rule in that way that you just referenced?
Well, the implications is that we need the House of Representatives in particular to re-examine its rules, to make sure that they are doing everything possible to make clear what the accountability standards are, what their deadlines are, and so forth. On the President's side, and he's got a legitimate argument here, sometimes the Congress of the United States has done nothing. They haven't responded on the Senate side to particular nominees. You know, if they don't like the President's nominees, vote them down, send them back, give the President another chance to nominate someone else. If they don't like the President's health care legislation, come up with a constructive alternative, put that forward rather than just saying no. It's important on Congress's side to be as specific as possible. On the President's side, he has a duty under Article 2 to take care that the laws are faithfully executed. That means when executive orders are written, there has to be a clear statutory or constitutional power that he's pointing to. It can't just be vague language pushing it to the margins. We have a situation in the United States, and it's affecting our economy, as you well pointed out in the previous segment, where both sides are not working to form a government. They are instead staying involved, staying grouped as a tribe or as a clan. And things are measured in terms of, do they advance the Democratic agenda or the Republican agenda? They should be measured, do they advance the interests of the people of the United States?
But what about the idea that, and again, John Boehner has not cited which actions, but if Congress is not aware of what's happening, for example, the release of the 5 Gitmo detainees, Congress was not aware of it. So could Congress have done anything to, get involved there if the President made this decision unilaterally and released the prisoners and did a swap?
Well, if this is, given that this has happened, obviously Congress will want to know why it wasn't aware. Its job is to do legislative oversight and executive oversight. And obviously you can't do anything about the 5 that are gone, but you can do something prospectively. And if Congress believes that the interests of national security have been jeopardized, right, now is the time to have their oversight hearing.
I guess the question is there any other course of action that the Republicans should be taking? I mean, John Boehner says continually that he is not brought into the discussion, the Congress is not brought into the discussion on some of these big decisions. Is there any other course of action to be taken other than suing the President for misuse and overreach of executive orders? I mean, what are they supposed to do?
Well, fundamentally, I think they have to be as clear as possible as to what they want to happen. And what they need to want to happen is something more than just no. It has to be, here's alternative A, B, and C. This is what we think we've authorized for you. And if you're in that category, we'll work with you. If you're not in that category, we'll oppose you. They've got to be that clear. You know, one of the things that the founders did not provide for was for a review of the scope of legal authority that the president had before a law went into effect. James Madison wanted that. He called it the Council of Revision. He would have added it to the Constitution. Maybe it's time we re-examine that 1787 proposition, because it's clear both sides are not in agreement. They are far from being in agreement as to what legal authority each side has.
Yeah, it's really unbelievable and sort of tragic that we're at this point of divisiveness, whereas the two sides cannot work together on anything. Sir, good to have you on the program. Douglas, we'll see you soon. Thanks for joining us.
Maria, good to be with you.
And to you. So when is the economy going to turn around? The president of the St. Louis Federal Reserve back on talking jobs, inflation, interest rates, and yes, economic growth. We'll talk with James Bullard as we look ahead on Sunday Morning Futures.